The drink, we're clicking to the environment. We're clicking to the environment. We're drinking to the environment. Yes.
Turn on some lights in here. Is it too dark?
No, you're good, man. You are good.
Cool.
Dude, thank you so much for being on the show, man. This is awesome.
No worries. It's great.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time out of your busy day.
There's not much downtime, so.
How's everyone? How are you?
Good, man. Good. Just working and playing and working some more and just trying to work to pay for all my expensive hobbies, you know.
Nice. What kind of expensive hobbies are we talking about?
Surfing, fishing, you know, the boat, all that fun stuff. It all adds up, but that's why we work, right?
That is definitely why we work. We have to support our awesome hobbies that we love to do and keeps us sane.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome, dude. Have you gone out lately? Surfing or fishing?
Yeah, it's been a little bit flat lately. You know, we've had these strong offshore winds, but we had a great September and October. I mean, we had a lot of swell. We had Hurricane Larry, Hurricane Sam. So it just definitely pushed in a lot of waves for us, and a lot of spots were closing out, but certain spots were really good. So we got some waves from those storms, and then it creeped all the way through October, and then we kind of just get into this lull now that hurricane season's kind of trailing off. You know, the peak was about September 10th, and then it trails off. So now things kind of quiet down, but now the fishing starts to turn on. You know, you start to get the water cooling off, the striped bass show up, and you know, tuna fishing's been really good. So it's kind of that transitional period right now.
Very cool. So I'm not really into fishing, but I mean, in terms of season, it's good time for like sea bass and stuff, or like what kind of fish?
Yeah, sea bass just opened October 8th, and I actually have a trip this Sunday with my mates fishing club, my high school that I run, and we're going out on the Marianne 4 out of Barnegat Light on the for sea bass on Sunday from 9 to 3. So that'll be a really good trip. Yeah, sea bass are good, fun to catch, good to eat. And yeah, there's a lot of striped bass around. You know, we've been spearfishing a lot too. I might even try to get out tomorrow, but you know, the water's been pretty clear lately, so trying to get out and spear some good fish for dinner. And you know, it's always fun to be underwater, see what's swimming around. It's a bit different than being on a boat or off the beach. You could see everything, and you know, you can kind of pick out which fish you wanna take home. You know,
that is pretty cool. So like, actually, I have a question now. So, I mean, I'm learning this, but like just from, I mean, someone that's doing it, you know, firsthand. Why is it that some of the parts of the year, like the water is like murky and you can barely see an inch in front of you, and then other times it's like clear as day. You're like, you can look down like 10 feet and you're like, wow, that's a nice fish. Like, you know, just it's so clear.
that has a lot to do with sediments being stirred up as well as plankton. So during the summer, we get a pretty good algae bloom typically, or plankton blooms, and they typically cloud up the water, make it a little bit more turbid and murky. And then after we get a really big blow or a big storm with a lot of waves, it tends to mix things up enough, and then the wind has to die down and let everything settle. So there's a lot of variability when it comes to, you know, the actual clarity of the water. But sometimes, you know, it varies by season. Usually early spring, after you come out of the winter, it's pretty clear because all the cold water has like killed everything off, all the algae. It's pretty limited, so you get that crystal clear spring water. And then, you know, come summer, it'll murk up. And then in the fall, it's tricky. Like it's not as clear as the spring. You know, basically June to July is usually our best season for clear water.
You said June into July?
Yeah, before it gets super warm. We get some of our clearest waters. I mean, there's days we get 25 feet of visibility in the inlet, and it's like,
right.
it's just unbelievable. But that's not super common, you know.
No, well, yeah, definitely not where, in Jersey, it's not. That's why I was curious, because I've gone surfing where like I'll be sitting in the water and it's a nice, like beautiful morning. And like I'll be just sitting there with a few friends and stuff, and I'll just look down and I could literally see the bottom, and it's probably like, I don't know, 7 feet deep right there, maybe 6. But and then other times I'm like, I could barely see my foot. Like, it's just crazy. And then I just think that it's like, since the weather, since we're on the outer edge of the huge, the Atlantic current, that's just bringing some crap down from up north, and that's why it's all dirty. I mean, am I perfect right now or no?
It depends. After Hurricane Sandy, when we had all that replenishment, that really stirred up the coastal waters, and it wasn't clean for like a couple of years. We had very bad conditions because there was so much replenishment. At least one area of the island was getting replenished. So no matter which way the longshore drift was traveling, we were getting sediments, moving, getting pushed up and down. Once those projects finished, it started to clean up again. But like you said, it's so variable. There's so many things in the mix that it's hard to predict. Like the best way to figure out if the visibility is good is to go check it, because you could say, oh, the wind's blowing northeast, it's going to be clear, and sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. It's just it's random.
Right. So like actually really quick before we keep going, I wanna even though we just kind of like kept going, but it's all right. I actually want to just, for those that don't know who you are, I just want to give a brief introduction on who you are, how we know each other, and then I just want to give it to you right after that to like explain a little bit more in detail, like your background and all that kind of stuff. Cool?
Cool, yeah.
All right, awesome. So just for everyone that doesn't know this awesome gentleman, his name is DWerner, and he is a huge advocate of the environment, but in terms of like, he's a huge educator. And I've known him, actually, I had one of his classes when I was in college, and I took one of his classes, and that's really how we met. And we've been staying in contact here and there, but other than that, I'll actually turn it over to you, and you could tell all about your background in marine science and ecology.
Yeah, so I basically, thanks, Ted. Yeah, I started, studying marine science after I went to Lacey High School. I did a shared time program for the Ocean County Vocational School District, which is actually now MATES, where I teach. But that was a shared time marine science program with John Wennick, and he really inspired me to want to teach. And I already loved the environment at that point. I was already surfing. I started surfing when I was about 14 years old, and got really serious when I was in high school. Started surfing in the winters. Got my license. Was my girlfriend at the time, now wife, who used to drive me all the time. She was older, used to drive me to the beach, surfing. And then I just fell in love with it. It was such a passion. And then I started traveling and going to Barbados and Costa Rica and Puerto Rico. Just starting at 18, started traveling to all those countries and saying like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. And at that point, it was just chasing waves. Like I was into fishing a little bit, but I wasn't really traveling to fish. Now I kind of do both. I'll travel to fish and dive and that kind of stuff. But so I went to Richard Stockton College in New Jersey, now Stockton University, studied marine science and education, and then started teaching right when I finished at Stockton. And I started at Oakcrest High School down in Mays Landing for a couple of years, and then a position opened at MATES, the Marine Academy of Technology and Environmental Science, which is in Manahawkin. And I slid right in, and I've been there since. I've been teaching there 17 years. And I still teach, also starting in 2009, when I finished my master's at Stockton, I started teaching some courses there. And I teach 3 different classes for Stockton University. There are 3 electives. One is called Science of Forecasting Waves. Basically called surf. It's basically a surf science class. It's super fun. I created the class, and it fills up every semester. The other one's called Beaches. We cover everything about our social, cultural, economic status of beaches. And the other one is Environment and Film. So we watch all these environmental documentaries and analyze them, fact check them, and they kind of go that route just to kind of give an impression and more knowledge, basically. So yeah, but I've been doing that for a long time, and it really doesn't get old for me because I love it, and it's an ever-changing environment, so it doesn't get stale. You know, and not for the best in most cases. You know, it's changing a lot in a lot of negative ways, but we have to figure out how to, you know, deal with that. Yeah, and I've known Ted. He was in my marine biology class that I taught at Ocean County College. And I remember talking about photography and all this cool stuff in class. And
Awesome.
it's good to come back and come full circle here.
Yeah, reconnect a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yo, this is great. Well, Dave, I'm not sure if you have water or anything, but I'd love to cheers to you to, you know, as a thank you to being on the show and for all your knowledge that you're about to give to us.
There you go. I got my lemon lime seltzer. Perfect.
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, they're coming for you, Ted.
I'm not here. Shh. I didn't do it, I swear. All right, so going off of what we were just talking about, beach replenishment and you know, we were talking about how water can be like on and off with being clear and not clear, talking about the algae and stuff. Just to build off of that, I actually wanted to ask you, like, do you think, I mean, I personally, like, I think it's good short term, but long term it's horrible. I like, why, what are your thoughts on like beach replenishment? Like in terms of like how it affects our coastline, and I mean if it's good or not.
So there's really two sides to it. I mean, there's two sides to everything, but
Right.
in a way it's kind of a necessary evil. Like we have to do it if we want to keep, you know, those homes protected. The biggest battle that I think, and the oceanfront homes are in good shape. I mean, there's a 20-foot engineered dune in front of those homes that protects them. Almost all of the island, except for Holgate, is in really good shape. Parts of Harvey Cedars they still have a big dune, but there's not a whole lot of blanket space because of the erosion. But I think the biggest problem is the bayside. There's no protection whatsoever, and the water is rising at such an alarming rate that those homes are the front line, I think. Beachfront, yeah, I mean, we do it and we protect them, but those, you know, all the tax dollars are going to protect those beachfront homes, but there's really nothing that can be done for the bayfront except for to raise the house. But you raise the houses, the water is still coming. So
Right, yeah.
it comes to access and how much can you access the main roads, the boulevard? You know, we see it now, you sneeze and it floods on the boulevard. You know, it's true, because that water, again, you think about it, you know, the barrier islands are, you know, they were basically sand that was dumped from the last ice age. You know, that was the Laurentide Glacier that melted in the Wisconsin era about 20,000 years ago. So as that glacier, because above, like from New Jersey, the northern parts of New Jersey, actually New York, and above was about 1 to 3 miles thick with ice. And
wow.
Yeah,
Wait,
so
you're saying vertically, right?
Vertically, and our coastline, because all that ocean water was trapped in that ice.
Right, yeah.
Our coastline was out where the canyon is now, 100 miles out. So the Hudson River, now the Hudson Canyon, is underwater, but it was exposed, and you know, everything was high and dry all the way out. And but as things melted, all the sediment from that glacier, called the terminal moraine, just pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. And if you look at areas like Long Island, you know, Long Island is that edge of that terminal moraine that dumped sediment, that never treated, dumped a little more sediment. So there's all this like geology and cool stuff going on. But our barrier islands were these kind of bar-built estuaries that, you know, the sediment got dumped down and pushed through sea level rise and change, like all this rising, because again, we were the bottom of the ocean. You know, this was, you know, the bottom of the sea where we are now, even some, you know, kind of inland New Jersey. And through those ebbs and flows, we had all this sediment dumped, and that's where our bar-built estuaries are formed in terms of our barrier islands. So those barrier islands are meant to migrate, they're meant to move. But what we're doing with replenishment and development is we're trying to keep them stationary, like in one spot. And nature doesn't work that way. Nature wants to kind of like, move and flow.
Yeah,
so that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, I heard a great quote in the movie Shored Up. It was a documentary by Ben Kalina after Hurricane Sandy, and the former mayor of Beach Haven says it's a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage. And that's the reality of it, is we're buying time here, literally buying time.
Yeah, we're pouring like trillions of dollars, or taxpayers are literally paying trillions of dollars to replenish everything, to keep buying us time. It's crazy.
It is, and the federal dollars come in, but how long is the federal government going to subsidize these replenishment projects?
Yeah.
It may not be long, because they're talking about 2050, another 1.5 feet of water. The boulevard is going to be flooded every high tide, if not low tide. We could put all the pumps. Yeah, we could put in all the pumps we want and all the storm drains, but the water's just going to go where it wants to go.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of the book that I finished reading. It's called The Geography of Risk by Gilbert Gall, and he literally talks about like the history of when LBI first like became a thing, like a trend, and then how the Morris family started just building on LBI all the way up to Seabright, and it's just talking about how we're literally just throwing money, like it's like you said before, it's a double-edged sword, because it's like we're buying time because it's necessary, but at the same time it's bad because it's like also messing with nature's agenda, I guess you could say, and it's kind of backfiring on us too. So it's a great book. If anyone decides to check it out, The Geography of Risk by Gilbert Gall. It's a really good book. It opened my eyes to a bunch of things. But
cool. Yeah, but it's crazy because we're seeing like so much change so quickly in such a short period of time that I could tell you, growing up on the island, surfing on the island, like growing up surfing on the island, grow up on the island, exactly. But being over there almost every day, you can see the changes. You can see the amount of flooding, and it's just these storms. And Rutgers has all the data showing that we're at a 600% increase for storms. And what they call this nuisance flooding or coastal flooding, which is insane. Also, our population keeps growing and growing. So, more and more people want to live near the water. And there's people who have a lot of money that are buying these $3, $4, $5, $6 million homes, knowing that, in 30 more years, it might not be accessible. 50 years, 100 years, it might not be accessible. So they're just like, whatever, I don't care. Like, we'll ride it out,
Yeah, well,
the question I have.
Keep going.
No, the question I have, can we out-engineer this problem? I mean, we kind of are, but like, how long can we keep doing it for?
How long can we keep on putting a Band-Aid on a laceration?
Yeah.
Well, I was actually about to ask you if you have an idea for a solution for this, but you just gave me that question.
I don't know if there's a solution. Just basically trying to just stay a little bit above it. But it's not pretty. I mean, I've thought about buying property on the island multiple times when it was affordable, not now. Due to COVID, the property values have just gone through the roof because everyone's just buying, and the market is crazy. But I just couldn't pull the trigger because I know too much of the science. Like,
yeah. I mean, are you happy you know science though?
Yeah, I'm happy I know what I know, and I'm able to educate myself as well as my students, and kind of, I'm hoping that a lot of my students, even at MATES, I told them the other day, you guys are going to be the future engineers to help with these problems. you guys are the future. It's not slowing down in our carbon dioxide emissions and our fossil fuel burning. It's just, I mean, Trump really set us back, and I don't want to talk politics.
Yeah, but I mean,
you know,
unfortunately, politics is intertwined. It's all connected into sustainability, into literally life. So I mean, I don't personally judge whatever how you feel, whatever. My show is an open discussion. If anyone that is viewing the podcast has their opinion, they have their opinion. But my platform, my show, you have your opinion. We could, agree to disagree, but I still respect your perspective. So keep going.
no, yeah, I mean, politics is huge. I mean, look at who's advocating for our environment, who's advocating for the atmosphere and for what we're doing. And, it's hard. It's hard to vote for people that aren't putting that as a priority. So that's my take on it. I might have, there's no perfect politician, but some are definitely more destructive than others, like what Trump was doing in his agenda, how far he set us back, exiting the Paris Accord. And, there's pros and cons to everything. Is the Paris Accord perfect? No, but it's a step in the right direction to get everyone on board to say, there's a problem. We need to work together to fix it.
Right.
So, it's tricky. It's tricky, but we're definitely in a tough situation. And if we don't change our habits now, then we're really kind of stuck in a bad spot.
Yeah. Well, so like everyone keeps saying like, oh, we got to change or we got to take action. Like, from your perspective, like what kind of, even at a small scale, even in like your community, and for everyone out, like if you live in Jersey, if you live anywhere, like, well, let's start with Jersey. So like, what would be your theory or your thought process on like what a good execution on a small scale to be part of the solution? Like what would you think of to do? Like what would be some ideas that we could throw around right now?
Oh, I love that question because I get it all the time from my students because they say, well, what can I do? I'm just one person.
Yo, let's go. Yes.
But it's not, you can't think like that,
Why not?
Because you have a choice every single day when you wake up to do positive things. And one of my favorite sayings, and I don't even know where it came from, but I say it all the time, is if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? So like, get up and do something, like whether it's not leaving the water running while you're brushing your teeth, as simple as that, catching all the cold water while it's getting hot in the morning. If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. To be a little more direct. But no, all these little things like choosing not to buy water bottles, use reusable, not to use straws, not to use plastic bags, like these all add up. And if everyone starts to do that, then that's where change is made. But my biggest, I guess, the biggest piece of advice is join a group, be part of a bigger movement. And that's what I tell students. If you want to make a difference, be part of a group. Join Clean Ocean Action, join Surfrider Foundation, join Alliance for Living Ocean, join these groups, join Greenpeace, do something that's going to make a difference, that you can have a bigger voice. And that's power, like these groups, get Clean Ocean Action, all the data that they accumulate, and Alliance for Living Ocean helps with that. All the data they accumulate helps make our policies. And that's why we're getting ready to implement, Governor Murphy's getting ready to implement the largest plastic ban in the country.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. What do you know the specific details on that? Because I just heard of it like a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's going to eliminate plastic bags, styrofoam, and straws. And it's amazing because, I mean, when I'm walking the bayside with my students and we're seining and collecting species, I mean, I'm like, we do cleanups everywhere we go. And last time we were over by the Ship Bottom Bridge, I mean, I picked up 3 or 4 Wawa bags that looked barely used. They were brand new, you know, that were floating, washed up in the reeds. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, this has to stop, you know?
Yeah.
So all those things, like October 23rd, they're doing the beach sweeps for Clean Ocean Action. You know, it's a statewide cleanup from 9 to 12. Like those are things you can do to kind of make a difference and get involved. And, you know, it's like, it reminds me of the old story. I don't know if you heard this one, where the guy and his son were walking down the beach one day, and there's thousands of sea stars washed up on the beach. And the kid starts picking them, and they're all like, oh, you know, sea stars are starting to dry out, you know. And the kids start picking them up one at a time and waving them in the water. And the dad's like, son, what are you doing? Like, you can't possibly make a difference. There's too many of them, you know. And the kid's like, oh, made a difference to that one, you know. So it's like every little bit helps. Like, it's just, we have to. You know, if you want to live in a better planet, if you want to leave it for the next generation to come and generations to come, then you got to act. You can't just sit back and reap the benefits and, you know, soak up all the resources and then just, you know, be like, oh, okay, oh no, things are bad. No, that stinks. You know, and then people start complaining, and it's like, if you haven't done anything, well then don't complain.
Don't complain, yeah, don't complain. I like how you said join a group, only because like some people, even me at first, when I started becoming more and more environmentally aware, I didn't know how to get started. And that was my problem. I was like, okay, well, I have all this passion and all this, like, I want to, you know, get my hands there. I want to like do this or do this, but I don't know how to like do it. I don't know how to execute. And then one of my professors actually at Kane, he actually pointed me in the right direction. He's like, dude, there's a surf rider event. Go to it this weekend. I'm like, cool, I got nothing to do. Sweet, let's go. So I went there, and I've been a member ever since 2013, I think, something like that. But I've been a member for a while. So if anyone wants to become a member, hit me up, or just go on their website and do it that way. Go to an event. They welcome you with open arms, and it's amazing. All walks of life, just open arms, just like, hey, what's up? Come over here, help us out, you know, want some food, whatever. It's great.
Yeah, that's why I love being, like, I've been, you know, Jetty's been one of my sponsors for the last 15 plus years, 16 years. And the community work that they do and is incredible, and just giving back to the community. So just to be involved with groups like that, it's so amazing. It just feels so good knowing that the company that sponsors me does so much for the environment as well as for the community, you know.
They sponsor your fishing or surfing, or just sponsor you?
Yeah, everything. So it's like the Jetty Life.
That's
like,
awesome.
It started out just surfing, and now it's basically everything, because they're an outdoor apparel company. So it's all about the outdoors, you know. So anytime I'm fishing, I tag them, and diving, and, you know, surfing, and it's kind of that outdoor life. Cool. And they're a B Corp certified company, along with Patagonia, Olokai, and, you know, there's only a handful of certifications out there. Yeah, so it's cool. What'd you say?
I said their flip-flops are awesome and comfortable.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, if there's a promo code, let me know, like, now or after the show, and I would love to get some Jetty stuff and, you know, give you some credit for it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, man, I mean, for everyone that's watching, definitely that's couple ways to get involved and really just even make a difference, just to get started to make a difference. Like, that's definitely a way to go. So try that. Well, actually, you know what? Wait. Oh, we're actually gonna take a break in a minute. All right, so let's let's leave it off with that, and then we'll just come back in a minute and then keep on going. All right, guys, check back, stay tuned, and see you guys in a minute. Hey, how is it going, everybody? I'm your host, Ted, and we are on The Drink Sustainability. Let's go. And with me right now, he is an awesome legend of Jetty, and he teaches environmental science, like I said before. What's going on, Dave? How's it going?
Doing good, man. Just chilling by the bay here, and I got this beautiful October weather. What a day it was today, man. It was like 75 degrees. We actually did some some dune grass planting with my high school students today. And I had my Stockton students, I had them out on Monday night. We're up in Loveladies planting dune grass. So it's a good way to give back to the environment and the community. And, it's a lot of fun.
I'm sorry, what was that group called? Love Ladies?
Loveladies up in Long Beach Island. It's one of the small towns in Long Beach Island. So we were up there planting dune grass, and then today we're down in Brant Beach planting.
Oh, sick! And Love Ladies is a group or an organization? Yeah, organization?
No, it's one of the towns in Long Beach Island.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a funny one. Love Ladies.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to Long Beach Island many times, and I've never heard of that town.
It's right before Barnegat Light.
Oh, well, like right after Harvey Cedars?
It's right where the LBI Arts and Science Foundation is. Yeah, it's right after Harvey Cedars. It's between Harvey Cedars and Barnegat Light.
Oh, that's okay. Because I've been down to Barnegat Light once, and that was like a while ago. So that's why I never. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so what's up?
No, go ahead.
All right, so this session, we are going to be talking about oceanography and surf science. So let's get into it. So, how long have you been teaching surf science again? About 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah, probably since.
Probably even more than that now. Who knows?
It's been, I think, 11 years since my course for Science and Forecasting Waves has been running in Stockton. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it started off real small, and I just created the class because I wanted to build something an elective that was all about surfing. And because a lot of the students, what I found out, even the ones that surf, and even more the ones that don't surf, they have no idea what's in their own backyard. They don't know their own beaches and what the beach is all about, and the local currents and winds and tides, and it's all part of it. Surf science is basically
absolutely.
Surf science is oceanography and meteorology. Is basically what it comes down to.
Right. And that's why that's why I want to go over this session, just because I made a video on how to spot a rip current, and I posted way before the spring, so hopefully some people saw it and learned a little bit. But I definitely think that education on how the water moves, the science behind it, and how to pretty much observe it and avoid different dangers can definitely help just every summer in general.
Yeah, knowing the basics, especially of rip currents. I mean, there's people that get caught and drown every year. I mean, it's just very common. So if you know not to panic, swim parallel to the beach, and then just relax. And because they'll sweep you off your feet, and then before you know it, you're being pulled way out, and it's frightening. Even for good swimmers, it's frightening. Yeah. And my one piece of advice: if you're ever going out to save someone in a rip current, make sure you have something that you can give them to float on, because otherwise they float on you. They'll pull you down trying to get breath, and then you could also get in a lot of trouble. So it's scary. But yeah, rip currents on nice calm days, you could spot them easily. You could see the water's nice and calm, and all of a sudden you see this choppy area, maybe 20, 30 feet wide going out. And you're like, oh, that's weird. But yeah, you don't want to swim there, because that'll suck you right out.
Yeah, for sure. It almost looks like a stream pattern. It's a little wavy, kind of choppy, but it's also a little wavy too. It's interesting because, like you said, it's calm, but in one spot it'll kind of just be a little wavy, and it almost looks like a stream looking channel.
That's a good analogy for it. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, in terms of like oceanography and surf science, it's all about understanding your local bathymetry. Now, bathymetry is the bottom contour. So if you know like a little bit more about your local beaches, you'll be able to tell where the best waves will break, because you know the angle of the coastline, you know the depth of the water and how it drops off. Like for us in LBI, like Harvey Cedars has some of the most powerful surf on the island, because the sandbar is so close to the beach and it drops off so quickly that the energy just pushes in, then it hits that sandbar and just goes whoop right over, and we get these really good barreling waves on big swells. And areas like Ship Bottom and Brant Beach, they can be a little bit more forgiving. They break a little further out, the sandbar is further out, so you get a nice gradual slope. And you know, you can kind of get good waves, especially for beginning surfers and novices. It's a good place to learn. So Harvey Cedars like that is not a great place to learn, but areas like Ship Bottom are, because you have this kind of like more gentle slope, and it's just not as terrifying and not as steep of a wave. You know, last thing you want to be is a beginner surfer, and all of a sudden you're trying to paddle in, it's like, whoa, you know, and you're being pitched over the wave. So
oh yeah, that's definitely never fun, looking straight down at like a 90-degree angle, be like, I'm about to die, yay. Like, no, it's definitely scary.
So yeah, the bathymetry is probably one of the most important factors when it comes to waves breaking along the coastline. And then it comes like the other part of it is actually the swell period, which is the time it takes for one wave to pass or two waves to pass a set point, like a buoy. So, and that's done in seconds. So basically like Hurricane Larry, right? That set off the coast this summer. East of Bermuda, but pumped in just amazing swell. I mean, just waves after waves.
Oh, it was so nice.
Yeah, but that's the long period swell. You're talking about 15-second periods. So when that comes into our flat sandbars, typically it just comes in and just whoop, closes out. You get one long wave. So those swells don't do well here for New Jersey. Now, if you're up in Rhode Island, Long Island, you'll do much better because you have a rocky bottom. You have points and headlands and definitely changes in a coastline. But for us, we're very flat and linear. New Jersey just curves a little bit. So the wave energy just hits that Hudson shelf and it basically travels in and closes out. For us, our best swells are those wind swell events, like your nor'easters and those kind of like short period wind swell where it's about 8-9 second period, and it hits our sandbars perfectly. And the swell's kind of sometimes mixed up. They call it a combo swell. You get swell from the northeast and southeast hitting, and it just gets real peaky and fun. That's typically the best, swells that we get are in that 8-9 second range overall.
Awesome. So like, what's it called? So actually, really quick, can you actually spell out, and I'm probably gonna butcher this, but bathymetry? Can you spell that?
BATHYMETRY.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Bathymetry, yeah. Bathos meaning bottom. So kind of measurements of the bottom, and it's cool when you start really getting into like the big waves of the Pacific, and even like you get into Nazaré in Portugal. There's a whole science that like you look at the bottom and it goes like 1,000 feet deep up to like a 20-foot ledge. So you're talking about massive North Pacific swells just traveling thousands of miles as like a 20-foot swell hits this ledge like this. It's traveling, just goes whoop, and it grows to like a 60 to 80-foot wave face. We don't get that because our shelf is too wide. We have a very wide continental shelf, so all that energy gets eaten up. But California, man, they have in the Pacific Northwest, they have a narrow shelf. So that energy is just barreling in. It just goes whoop, straight up and just crazy swell.
That would kind of explain why, like, I mean, from what you just told me, because I've watched, like, I'm sure you've heard of the wedge in California.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have. And
yep.
And is that also kind of like the same like bathymetry of that, like where, because there's a point where like it does come in, but all of a sudden like there's like a point like right off the jetty, because I've seen a bunch of videos of it, and it's like all of a sudden it comes in like off the jetty, and all of a sudden just goes like whoop. But it's weird because it's like the energy goes into the beach, then it comes out, but it's also like it's like 2 or 3 different directions that all of a sudden just barrel up against each other, and then it all of a sudden just creates a nice like barrel, but it's like dangerous too. It's like it's crazy. It's like one wave creates like 3 different directions, and they just come up to each other at a point, and then just crashes.
Yeah,
So,
that's
like,
a lot of
crazy.
that is offshore bathymetry, but it's also refraction. And the waves
Okay.
actually refract in, they bounce off the jetty, and the next swell comes and they hit each other, and they basically form this like what they call a wedge, and then that folds over. So it's a lot going on at once, but it's a heavy wave, man. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's a sandy beach break, so guys are surfing it all the time, bodyboarding, body surfing. It's pretty dangerous, but it's guys take a beating on it. You know, they skimboard it, you know, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen freaking Ben Gravy, Jamie O'Brien, Blair Conklin. Well, I've seen Blair Conklin do it like a million times, where he'll just sprint into the water, throw his skimboard down, just go, and he just like, I've seen him almost like get sent all the way up, and he just like crashes. But sick videos, man, sick videos.
Yeah, it's pretty. There's a lot of crazy waves out there now. You look at Cyclops in Australia, you look at Shipsterns Bluff, all of these like rock ledge waves where, I mean, it's death defying, but now guys are surfing it. It's insane. And they're towing in the waves that are 100 feet tall, like Nazaré in Portugal. And,
Dude.
You know, Will Scuden is he's the most famous big wave surfer from the East Coast of the US. He's from Long Island. And he surfs these like 50, 60 foot waves out in Ireland, towing in. I mean, it's just incredible, like absolutely incredible.
Dude, I mean, we could get into a whole nother topic of that, but yeah, those, I was showing a couple of my friends like some of those videos, and they're just like, and he hasn't died yet. Like, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I give those guys props because that's like everyday training for that. Because you screw up once and it could be game over, like forever. Like,
yeah, they train really hard, and they practice all their safety drills, and they wear these inflatable vests that are built into the wetsuit with CO2 cartridges. So they get pushed under a wipeout, they pull the cord, and they get shot up to the surface so they can come up and they can be rescued by the ski. So it's pretty cool how they do it. But yeah, they're putting their life on the line for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, getting back to what we were talking about. So like, in terms of bathymetry with like the way the ocean floor lies, so like, give your definition or an explanation on how you would describe how to spot a rip current then.
So basically, if you're surveying the beach, you're looking for different textured water. So let's say you're looking at the north, it's nice and calm, and all of a sudden you see like this, like ripples and waves, and you see it all kind of choppy and turbulent, like that's a rip current. So on choppy days altogether, they're very hard to spot, you know. When we get these long period swells from hurricanes, rip currents pop up just like that. I mean, they can pop up and disappear so quickly. So you just always have to be aware, you know. If you have little ones swimming in the water, you have to be aware, because they could be swept off their feet in seconds, and then they're gone, you know. So it's frightening. You just have to be aware.
Gotcha. So just to know what, okay, so we're covering like looking at it from the water perspective. Like, how is a rip current actually created though? Can you explain that?
Yes, you have areas of like sandbars, and then all of a sudden there's a cut in the sandbar, and there's deeper water in the middle. And what happens is the waves rush in, and then they come up the beach, and they get pushed right out into that channel. So it's basically a little change in the bottom in the sandbar that causes this funneling effect of the water to be like just rush through this channel. It's like almost like a little river, like you said. It's like it forms this like underwater channel that the water just filters through. And that's why they change so quickly, because again, we have 4 tides a day, right? We have 2 high tides and 2 low tides. They're called semi-diurnal tides. And anywhere from, they range at 3.5 to 5 feet on the high tide, in terms of vertical height. But those tides can change, especially you get into these new moons like we have tonight. You can get tides changing quickly and a lot of water being pulled because of the gravitational force of the moon creating the tides and the pull. So you're talking about, tides changing, winds, you get sandbars shifting. There's just a lot of things at play, and these sandbars can shift, and or the water comes in just enough over the bar to create that current. You might not be there at low tide, but 10 minutes later, tide fills in a little bit and that rip current pops up and it's there.
It's like, hey, I'm here, don't touch me.
Yeah. Yeah. I rescue kids every summer. Usually I'm doing surf lessons. I run my own business in Ship Bottom.
Oh, cool. What's it called?
DWerner Surf Lessons.
Sweet. Very straightforward. I like it.
Yeah, it's my own little thing. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at DWerner Surf Lessons, but it's my own little thing. And I do a lot of private lessons, but I'm usually up there and in the surf zone, because anywhere on LBI you can surf outside the flags, which is really cool. And usually there's kids that get caught and get pulled out, and I'm like, all right, let's go get them. And have them grab the board, pull them in, because they basically get swept to a point where they can't touch the bottom anymore. And they're, getting pulled by the current. They're kind of helpless at that point. So.
Very good, man. I mean, how, do you have a count on how many people you've ever rescued from rip currents?
I don't really, but there's usually a few each summer.
I was just curious if you keep track of them or not.
I don't. I mean,
first started or whatever.
Sometimes the lifeguards are just daydreaming. They're like, oh yeah, and then this kid's getting pulled way out, and I'm like, oh. They don't see him.
Over here.
Yeah. Hello, do you see that kid out there? But lifeguards do a lot of rescues. I've seen a lot of rescues. Yeah. So it's busy.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to lifeguards.
Yep.
Definitely, man. I mean, I was a lifeguard for 7 years, starting 2012 at Island Beach State Park. So I was right near you almost.
Cool.
So, what's called?
I was saying before too, and I forgot to mention, a lot of it's meteorology as well. So you have to know like local conditions, local winds. You have to understand that, because it's all, basically wind makes waves, right? That's where our ocean waves come from. Yeah, you can get tsunamis, you can get landslides, all these other factors, earthquakes. But the majority, our waves are created by wind. So you need a storm. And when the storm is offshore, or even the wind is blowing in our direction, it's pushing energy into the water, which is traveling as through the medium into our area. So obviously the bigger the wind field and the stronger the wind field pointed in our direction, the larger the swells can grow. And that's going to travel to us. Now it depends on the direction of the swell. Like for us, we do really well with a lot of different swell directions, but that's going to dictate, which surf spot you want to choose. Is it a south swell? Is it a northeast swell? That's going to dictate where you're going to go and try to surf, based on bathymetry and also based on wind. If the wind is northwest, all of LBI is great, because LBI faces a little bit more like east-southeast to southeast. There's a little bit of a curve. When you get above Barnegat Light, it straightens out, so it faces more east. So you get a west wind. A west wind is great for Island Beach, Seaside, Jenks, Manasquan. For LBI, west wind is just okay, because the way it bends, the wind kind of comes at a little bit of an angle, so it's not perfectly offshore. Northwest is perfectly offshore for us. So those little bits of angles and the little tweak in the wind will dictate if it's going to be good or not. So you really have to know, there's so many cool apps now. I use Wind Alert. It's live wind meters that show exactly what the wind's doing. You have live buoys, all the data at your fingertips. You have HD surf cameras on Surfline, if you remember, that you can just punch in, pull up on your phone. And I can see exactly what it looks like in Surf City, Harbor Cedar, Ship Bottom, Casino Pier. So you have all these things at your fingertips to kind of make the best decision as to where you're going to go. It's pretty impressive,
Yeah, that's a whole science in itself. I feel like if someone's definitely not I guess ocean inclined, this would be a little much for them. I could imagine. So like you were saying that the more wind, the bigger the swell. So like if I was just some, Joe Schmo and I'm out here on a windy day, but it's not big, it's just choppy and everything, like why would that be then? Like, is it because there's no swell? I mean, there's a lot of wind coming my direction, but the waves aren't like that big. So like what would, I guess what I'm trying to ask is like why aren't the waves big if there's a lot of wind then?
Because there's no fetch to it. Fetch is the distance the wind blows over. So if the storm is out, like Hurricane Larry was out by Bermuda, just sitting there swirling, pushing waves into us, and that fetch is what, 2,000 miles, let's say, or 1,000 miles. That's a huge distance for that wind to travel over to build energy in the water. So basically, if the storm is too close, it's like fetch limited, meaning that it doesn't have enough surface area for the wind to blow over to create actual waves that are powerful.
Okay.
Right. So that's why you don't see 6-foot waves in Lake Fred down in Stockton or Manahawkin Lake or, any of these small bodies of water, because they don't have enough surface area for the wind to blow over to create that energy. And also they're depth limited. So in that case, like a lake, it's only 8 feet deep. There's not enough room for swell to grow. So it's just limited in that capacity in terms of surface area and depth.
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool. Well, thanks for that lesson.
Yeah.
So then, crap, I just had a question now, I can't remember it. So like, we're talking about surf science, we're talking about all this bathymetry and tides and everything on how like the gravitational pull, the tides, the wind, the weather in general could affect a swell in the water to create waves. So where, like, so I'm just trying to word it the best way I can because I have a question. I'm just trying to word it the right way. I'll get back to it later. I can't like think about it.
It's all good. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. I'm learning more and more anyway. I'm also.
But it's all meteorology. Like, all your big surf forecasters, they all have a degree in meteorology.
Yeah.
That was my other passion. That's, if I didn't do marine science, I was planning on pursuing meteorology because I'm a weather junkie. Like I'm checking the weather constantly and looking at the winds, looking at the forecast, and it's harder for us because the Atlantic is a little bit more unpredictable. Like the Pacific, they could forecast swell, a week plus out, and it's accurate because it's such a big ocean and the storms are consistent. Whereas the Atlantic is so like hit and miss. Like the storms pop up and then they fade, and then they, so like the swells it's a hit and run swell. Like when there's gonna be waves in Jersey, you got to be on it the second it goes offshore, because the hours later it might be gone. The swell might be half the size because the energy is not as great as the Pacific, right? So, but I've traveled the globe. I've traveled to India. I did a semester in Australia, surfed all up and down the east coast of Australia. I spent a month in New Zealand, traveling the whole North Island of New Zealand, surfing all different waves. I spent
awesome.
2.5 weeks in Indonesia, surfing a lot of these like insane reef breaks, and
That's
just
sick.
Crystal clear water, razor sharp reef, and just some of the best waves of my life. And it's an addiction, you know, like you want to get better waves all the time. Like you just want more and more and more. And there's so many waves out there now. It's just, but
well, there's
COVID's been,
artificial waves now too. So
yeah, but now COVID's been like, it's been 2 years since I've traveled and I'm just kind of starting to like go crazy. I'm like, I need to go somewhere, you know, but
yeah, definitely, man. Actually that gives, so like you just mentioned the different sides of the Pacific and the Atlantic. Why is, whoops, what makes the oceans like different though in terms of consistency of weather? Is it just because of the, I guess, location on the globe or something, like, or is it?
yeah, the weather patterns and then the depth of the ocean. The Pacific has these big North Pacific winter storms now. It's like one after the other, and they basically just funnel swell into the entire west coast of the United States and Hawaii. So it's like it's just a wave train, and because it's so deep and so vast and large, those swells just propagate, and they're easier to predict than Atlantic swells because we have this big shelf all throughout the entire East Coast, and you know it just messes with the wave energy, so it's a bit harder to predict.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, yeah, that makes sense because I mean, now as you think about it, it's like, I mean, especially for the Atlantic Ocean, I know we're coming to the
I gotta roll
the
soon.
show.
So
Yeah. It's all good. I'm gonna leave off with this and then we'll cut it close. But because the only like time that we actually get like a hurricane swell is because it comes off of the western coast of Africa, comes all the way up and like either hits us or doesn't. But like, doesn't that also kind of like get circulated into the whole like area anyway, like in the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah, there's storms that pump swell throughout the entire Atlantic, like Larry and Sam. They were producing waves from all the way from Nova Scotia all the way down to the Caribbean. So they're just just producing waves in every direction. And then they get into the far North Atlantic. They provide waves for Europe. So it's a pretty cool concept. I mean, these storms have a lot of energy, and they're out in deeper water, just propagating swell. You know, it's like dropping a rock in a puddle and watching all the rings just.
Oh, they just go every which direction.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. I'm gonna go look at my weather app for the next like freaking 24 hours straight, just watching it. But anyway,
swell.
What's up?
It's all swell.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, we're gonna actually close up shop now because I know you have to go. And but dude, thank you so much for being on the show, and I'll definitely keep in touch via email on the next one because we got more to talk about and learn.
All right, sounds good, Ted. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Take it easy. Be safe, man. Later.
All right, see you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching The Drink Sustainability. Warning. As you watch the show, be sure to clink at your own risk. Drinks may not appear the way that they seem.